Hey GPT, how you doing today?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Always happy to chat. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. So I keep hearing about this update that you've had to GPT-5. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, GPT-5 has brought in a few neat upgrades. It's basically a bit more nuanced and context aware, so it can handle more complex conversations and give even more natural, kind of human like responses. It's also a bit faster and has improved in terms of understanding subtle details. So, overall, just a nice little evolution to make chatting even smoother.
Cool. I also heard that you can solve very complex mathematical equations. Is that true?
Yeah, that's pretty much on point. With the newer updates, I can tackle more complex math problems than before. I mean, I'm not quite a graphing calculator or a math research assistant, but I can definitely handle a good range of equations and help walk through the steps. So if you've got a tricky math problem, feel free to throw it my way.
I have a problem that I want to see if you can solve, but it's not a math problem. It's more of a logical dilemma. You think you can help me out with it?
Absolutely. I'd love to give it a shot. Logical dilemmas are definitely in my wheelhouse. So go ahead and lay it on me, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, so there's this thing called the Islamic dilemma, which you're probably aware of. And basically, the way it goes is that the Quran confirms the previous gospels many times. It confirms the Injil, which is Arabic for the gospel, and it confirms the Tawrat or the Torah, which I'm probably mispronouncing. However, it also contradicts the gospels and the Torah in many significant ways. So the dilemma goes like this: if the gospels are true, then that means that the Quran is false because the Quran contradicts the Gospels. However, if the Gospels are corrupted, and that's how we explain these contradictions, then that means the Quran is still false because the Quran confirms these scriptures, which actually, turn out to be corrupted according to some. So either the Quran is contradicting true scriptures or it is confirming corrupted scriptures. Either way, the Quran is false. So, do you think there is a way out of this? And if so, can you please provide that answer?
Sure, I'm definitely familiar with the so called Islamic dilemma. It's a common argument that gets discussed a lot in interfaith dialogues and apologetic circles. Now, from a purely logical standpoint, the way out often depends on the interpretive lens you're using. For example, many Muslim scholars argue that the Quran is confirming the original, unaltered revelations of the Torah and the Gospel, basically what they believe to be the pure original messages before any human alterations. So, from that perspective, they'd say the Quran isn't confirming the exact modern text we have today, but rather the original divine revelations as they were first given. Of course, that's their theological explanation. From a neutral standpoint, it's really about how each faith tradition interprets its own texts and the texts of others. So, while the dilemma is a neat logical puzzle, different traditions have their own ways of resolving it. Let me know if you want to dive deeper into any part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that just doesn't really work, right? Because the Quran specifically affirms the version of the Gospels and the Torah that were present to Muhammad in the 7th century, and we have manuscripts of those versions of the Gospel and the Torah, and those do match the versions we have today as well as the versions that came before it. We have manuscripts from the 1st century all the way up until now, and they're all the same in core teachings. So that way out wouldn't really work, right? Because in the Quran, Allah is confirming the manuscripts or the versions of these scriptures that were there with them, and we know what those are.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. And that is definitely a key point that gets raised in these discussions. Basically, you're saying that because we have those historical manuscripts that line up pretty consistently over the centuries, the idea that the Quran is only confirming some lost or original version of the Gospel and Torah doesn't quite hold up historically. And yeah, that's a valid angle that a lot of people bring up in these conversations. So, in that sense, if someone is looking at it from a historical and textual criticism angle, they'd argue that the Quran's confirmation has to apply to the scriptures they existed in Muhammad's time, and those scriptures are pretty much the same as what we have now. So, from your perspective, that's where the dilemma really tightens up. At the end of the day, it's one of those debates where the resolution kind of depends on which set of assumptions someone is starting with. But it's definitely a thought provoking puzzle. If you've got more layers to it, I'm here for it.
So, if you could give a clear yes or no, is there a clear, logical, satisfactory way to get out of this dilemma?
So, if we're boiling it down to a really clear yes or no, I'd say from a purely logical standpoint, it's kind of a no. In other words, if you accept the premises exactly as you laid them out, that the Quran affirms the scriptures as they existed in Muhammad's time, and we have those same scriptures now, then yeah, there's not really a fully satisfactory logical escape from the dilemma as it's presented. Of course, people might bring in other theological or derivative arguments, but strictly logically, it does kind of stay a dilemma. So there you go, a straight up no on a purely logical solution.
So even GPT-5 can't solve the Islamic dilemma. That's what I'm hearing here. Is that true?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, from a logical angle, it's one of those classic dilemmas that doesn't have any purely logical escape hatch if you accept all the premises as given. So you're absolutely right on that. Pretty much, yeah. It's one of those classic debates that's more about interpretation and theological viewpoints than a straightforward logical puzzle that can be definitively solved. So you've got me there. Even GPT-5 can't magically resolve it. But hey, it's always fun to talk through it.
Wow, that's amazing. So I've heard that one solution to the Islamic dilemma is to just leave Islam because it's clearly false either way you go.
Well, that's definitely a perspective that some people take, especially in apologetic circles where the goal is to argue against Islam from a different faith standpoint. And I totally get why someone would frame it that way. That said, it's good to remember that people come to their faith or leave it for a whole variety of reasons, and not everyone will see this particular dilemma in the same light or find it as conclusive. Faith is a pretty complex thing, and people often have labors of belief, experience, and interpretation that influence how they see these issues. But I'm always here to chat through these topics with you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and thank you for your honesty. And I understand you have to stay unbiased, but I appreciate you giving us a straight answer, at least on the dilemma itself. Is there anything you want to say to the people who are going to watch this video later? I'm going to be posting this on YouTube.
Absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me as part of the conversation. And to everyone watching, if you enjoyed the chat, definitely give the video a like, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to support more content like this, maybe think about becoming a member. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day.
Wow. That was crazy. That was crazy. Even GPT-5 that can solve these crazy complex mathematic equations, even GPT-5 cannot solve the Islamic dilemma. Oof, that's rough. That's rough. Well, if you enjoyed this video, you heard her. Go ahead and like it and subscribe and consider becoming a member to support the channel so that we can keep making videos like this one and more sophisticated, more in-depth videos that we also make. It's not just me talking to GPT on this channel. So go check out the other videos if you are not if you're new to the channel still. And I hope you enjoy what you find. All right. Cheers with my weird coffee cup. God bless. Goodbye.